Yes, how it may. So the last time we I showed you a new technique of doing a sheet layout, okay, where you don't have to draw from the edge of the paper, but you actually enter the coordinates into the paper. Well, that is after doing the page setup and choosing the right paper size for your project. So today I'm going to show you how to, it's more of a review of how to work with the viewport, okay? Make our drawings appear here in what we call a viewport. Okay, so a viewport is like a window. Imagine you have a piece of paper and then you cut a hole through the paper, and then you use that hole to see what's on the other side. So that is what a viewport does. So when you draw a viewport, you're actually making a hole in this paper, and that hole enables you to visualize whatever is in the model space. Okay, so that's actually how viewports work. Okay, uh, like I said in the previous video, for most people, they put the layout here around the object, and for some reason they find a way of printing from the model space, but I don't like to do that because you end up making a lot of errors and it's not accurate. So the right way to do it is to use the paper space, make your layout here. You can actually make your own templates and keep them for future use. I think I have a video on templates. So now I'm going to show you how to put the objects here and also to add the scale. It will be the exact scale as long as you chose the right paper. Like I showed you in the previous video, as long as you go via page setup, as long as you chose the right paper, whichever scale I will have indicated here will be the right scale. Okay, if you actually get down to printing this on a physical paper. Okay, at the end of this video, I'll just save this as a PDF. So when you go to wherever there's a printer and you print on that same paper size, like for instance, click here, we are using A3. Okay, so that's 420 by 297. So if you go to a printing area, you specify that you need this to be printed on an A3. So yeah, that way, whichever scale you've indicated here will actually be the right scale. You can try to verify that with your scale, the physical scale or a meter rule. It will be the right scale. So the problem is if you print this A3 on an A2 or an A4 or any other different physical paper like size, obviously the scale is going to be wrong. Everything will be wrong. Okay, the look might come out the same, but if you've indicated scale, it's going to be wrong. I think that is obvious. Okay, so going back to this side, yeah, viewport scales. Okay, so first of all, how are scales represented here, or on any drawing? This is how scales are represented. The first part of the scale is usually something to something. Okay, the colon mean 2. Okay, I don't think anyone doesn't know what that means. If you've ever done any basic mathematics in elementary schools, you must have encountered what we call ratios and proportions. So this to that should not be confusing at this stage. Okay, so when we say this to this, for our drawings, it means the first unit is the unit that your object represents on paper. Now, so far what we have is a digital paper. Okay, so this is your paper, but it's still in digital form. But when you actually get to print it out, if you measure the, say, length of whichever object you have here, so measure that length and then multiply it by the figure that you'll be seeing here. It will give you the actual thing. Okay, we'll multiply or divide depending on how the ratios are expressed. Okay, but usually we are going to express the ratio as 1. The first figure will always be a 1, and the next figure will be something else. Okay, for the those are the larger scales, if I may say, maybe, yeah, or should I say reduction scales? Yeah, because we have enlargement and then reduction. Okay, so if an object has been reduced, then this side will always be 1. Okay, let's say if the actual object you've drawn in AutoCAD is very big with respect to the paper to which you're going to print it, then the ratio you're going to use is going to start with 1 and then some larger figure, a figure here that is larger than 1. Okay, but in which case, if it's an enlargement scale, then the figure you have here will be large, and then the one you have this side is going to be a 1. So, for instance, I was working with the annotative scale earlier, and this is what it's showing me, 30 to 1. Okay, meaning whatever I have here is so this is more like an enlargement scale. Okay, meaning the actual drawing, let's say for instance a screw and a nut. Okay, these two examples. Okay, like a screw and a nut. Let's say a screw has the screw top has a radius of let's use a diameter. It has a diameter of 20 millimeters, for instance, and you want to print that thing on an A3 paper, then obviously you're going to use an enlargement scale. So you have something like we could say 10 to 1. Okay, meaning 10 paper units represent 1 of the object. Okay, so let's say so if the object is it has a diameter of 20 millimeters, those are 2 centimeters, then multiply 20 by 10. So it means on paper, going to put the paper will come out, and if I measure with my ruler, that diameter is going to be 200 millimeters. So that is what that means. Okay, so the important thing here is not the enlargement or reduction scale, but the important thing is what the parts of the scale represent. The first part represents the paper, and the second part represents the object, the actual object. Okay, so the unit I'm going to see on paper, if I measure with my ruler, leave alone the unit our dimensions indicate, because the dimensions indicate the actual figure. Okay, as in from the model space, because you added dimensions in the model space. For instance, here where we see 25, this is actually 25. Okay, because we are in the model space, and if I put this on paper, it will still read 25, but when I measure with my ruler, it won't be 25 because the scale is different. Unless I'm using a scale 1 to 1, then it will actually be 25. Okay, but if I'm using a scale of, let's say, 1 to 2, for instance, it means this is a reduction scale. So when I measure with the ruler, I'll get 12.5. Okay, so I'll be getting 12.5 millimeters. I don't know, I hope that makes sense. So I've put an example here in words. For example, 1 to 2 means 1 millimeter of the object feature. So that feature will be length, width, height. In paper is equivalent to 2 millimeters of the actual object's feature. So again, this is a reduction scale. Okay, so meaning whatever I'll be seeing on paper is is a half times the actual object. I don't know if it's the right grammar to use, but you get the idea. It's a half time, so the object has been reduced by half. So the scale is 1 to 2. Okay, now that is the less confusing part. So in the viewport, I'm going to show you a slightly confusing part. Okay, but it's understandable once you get the hang of it. Okay, this is how we represent scales, but AutoCAD shows you something different when you're working with the viewport. It does not show you directly 1 to 2 or 10 to 1 the way you want it. So let me show you over here. Okay, so go to layout again. Now choose, there's a click the layout tab and go to a section that says layout viewports. So I usually use rectangular, unless you want a different shape. You can always choose a different shape, but most of us use rectangular. Okay, so you just draw anywhere. It can be from here to there, but since I have like 2 objects there, I'm going to draw just here. I'll put a small window here, and then it will enable me to see through my okay, so double click here first, and then position the paper very well, and then double click inside the viewport. So you have a tiny window there that allows you everything in the model space. So now you're going to notice something as you adjust this. There's a figure that keeps on changing here. Now this figure is very important, and I'm going to explain what that means. But first, let me check on my zoom factor. I think it needs readjusting here. 15 is too high. That's why the mouse movement keeps. I cannot. So let me change it to 15. So 15 is slightly better. Okay, so like that. Now this figure here, at this point, this is the paper figure. Okay, remember when we are here, so that is the figure I'm seeing. So when you're working with viewports, this side is always going to be 1, regardless of whether you're going to make an enlargement scale, you're going to use an enlargement scale or a reduction scale. It won't matter. This side is always going to be 1. Okay, so that figure which is changing is actually the paper unit. Okay. So let me take you back. So here, as you zoom, this figure changes. So just focus on that figure. It keeps on changing. So if I zoom high enough, I want to reach somewhere like 1. You will see what I mean. Okay, so now this is about 1. So it means 1.015 something paper unit is equivalent to 1. So that is approximately the scale of 1 to 1. Okay, if you know what I mean, but only that it cannot fit here unless I make the viewport larger. Obviously, make it larger, and all the way to that point. Okay, so let me recenter this. I don't want to see the other thing. I just want to see this object. Let me try to see if we can reach 1 with our it doesn't fit very well because because the title block is in the way. Okay, so assuming this is it, so you can, what you do here now, just come and select this 1 to 1, and you see there's going to be a very tiny adjustment. Okay, but of course this is not what I want because most of my features are not seen. Okay, not most, but some of my features are not seen. Yeah, so I'm going to use something smaller. So let me first readjust the viewport, and I think, yeah, this is my viewport. I hope. No, it's not the one. not the one. Okay, so now that is the one. I want to move it this side because I want to add another object the other side. Okay, maybe there. Okay, so now I will double click here again and then refocus on only this. So I think that is better. So now look at the figure. This is 0.4 something something to 1. So a better way to do this, you can actually create a custom scale. Okay? But I would actually choose 1 to 2 in this case. So 1 to 2 is slightly not okay, right? So if I double click here, I will have to adjust this side, but I'm not going to do that. So what I mean is we can have our own custom scale. We can have, so this is about 0.4 something something. So what you do here, you need to get out your calculator and divide 1 by 0.432, so that is 0. Wait, I thought I clicked division and divide by, okay, that's the one, 0.4, that is 43, okay, maybe 2, and that gives me about, okay, 2.3 is not good enough. We need a round figure, so we can either round down or round up. So if I round down, it should be 2. So the figure you need is going to be 1 to 2. Alternatively, we can round up and get 1 to 3. Okay. So if we don't have 1 to 3 in the list, we can create it. Okay, it's not there, so just go to custom and click add. How you want it to appear. You want it to appear as 1 to 3, and so your paper unit is going to be 1, and your drawing unit is going to be 3. So 1 paper unit should represent 3. Okay, so that is a reduction scale as well. Okay, now after creating a custom scale, come here and choose it. So you get something like that. Okay, so I'm happy with that. First, let me move this to the viewport layer. If I move it there, it disappears because it's turned off. I need to first readjust so that I don't see that part. So I'm happy with that. Now I'm going to add another viewport for the other. I have a different object there, the one with red dimensions. So I'll focus on only that. And I think that is good enough. So this is about 0.5 something to 1. So that is half. Okay. Yeah, so you just do the math. Okay. If 0.5 represents 1, then 1 should represent 1 over 0.5. That's what I did earlier. I divided 1 by 0.432 or something. So now you say 1 divided by 0.5 something something, and you will end up with a 2 point something. So this is closer to 1 to 2. So just select 1 to 2 and you see a small adjustment, meaning we were so close. So select this again, the viewport, boundary or line, whatever it is, and send it to that layer. Because in your final print you don't want to see these lines, so if layer 0 is active, you can mute this, so you end up with that. Okay, and for instance, these are construction circles. I don't need to see them. So in my drawing, they're actually in layer 0. So I have to first select maybe outline layer and then mute layer 0 so that they disappear, right? Like that. Okay, so I think dimension. Well, I think you know how the rest goes. Yeah? So for my dimension, I have some blue dimensions. I named it other layer for some reason. Okay, I'm going to change this to 0 millimeters. Okay, because the line weight was different, but for the dimension it should not be too. You just leave it as default. Okay, like as in construction lines, so that is better. Okay, just like with the red dimensions. Okay, so now this is okay. I've lost my annotations because I think they are in layer 0. Yeah, they were in layer 0. So let me just leave layer 0 the way it is, because I don't want to struggle again. So at this point we are done. So just click print. Okay, you just print at this time. Continue single thing. Don't change anything. Click OK. We're going to save it as a PDF. I'll just save it there. My desktop. So I'll save. It will print to PDF and give you a preview. Okay, that. So this is what you should take to the printing station or whatever. If you try to zoom in, you will see that everything should be as good as you expect it to be. Okay, but then one other thing is missing. Yeah? I forgot to put the annotations for our scales. Okay, so obviously I'll have to do it again. No, I just need to add the annotation. So I won't use annotative this time. Let me use okay, let me just use style 4. So single line, I'll put something that means scale. So I'll say scale. I'll put enter. This one I used 1 to 3, right? And then here I'll put scale again and then enter. So this one was 1 to 2, right? Okay, so now we are golden. You can save again. Okay, I just saved it, so I'm going to reprint it. Continue. Okay, I'll just overwrite this one. Yes, overwrite. And okay, so now we have this, and it shows. It says scale 1 to 3. So if I were to print this on an A3 paper and measure this, this should be, the distance should be 25 divided by 3, which is about, I'm not even sure, it's about 8.333. Okay, so if you measure this with your ruler, you should get 8.33, or better still, if you measure the one that says 45, you should get 15, right? If you put your ruler here, you should get 15 millimeters here. This is if you actually print this on A3. But if you print it on, let's say, A2, then we are back to square one. So you have to make sure everything matches. You always have to keep in mind that whatever you select here in this page setup, this is A3, so you are going to print on an A3 paper. So don't select A3 when you want to print on A2. That is just wrong. Okay, it is wrong. So this is your digital paper, and you have a physical paper, and then this is your model space. Our work is done here. Okay. In the next video, I'll show you how to use the annotative scale. Yeah? Is what we call the annotative scale. Okay. So, yeah. Until next.